Here we go.
Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast, your source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, rumors, and discussion. And this week, it's Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Empire, and Tales of the Empire. That's what we're talking about, the new 6-part animated series of shorts that dropped on Disney Plus on when else? May the 4th. And yeah, we'll just kind of be keeping that May the 4th energy going as we break down these 6 episodes, 3 about Barasafi, 3 about Morgan Elsbeth. It's going to be a great show. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, is the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? And happy late May the 4th to everyone. Happy Star Wars Day. I know it was last week, but still, okay, we're still celebrating in our hearts. It's still Star Wars Day, and we have a hell of a lot to talk about. In fact, we're not like there's other stuff. Like we got a trailer, we got a couple trailers. There's other stuff happening. There's the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace happening. We all saw it in theaters, and they're not going to talk about any of that. We just got Tales of the Jedi. I keep doing that. Okay, Tales of the Empire. Okay, I can't count the times on social media I have hashtagged Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, and someone was like snarky on our Twitter, was like, yeah, I really like Tales of the Jedi, and it was better than Tales of the Empire. I'm like, no, I deleted that tweet. Nobody ever saw that one. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna talk about these episodes, and also with us, as always, from the Raeside, it's Hannah Raeside.
G'day there. Good to be back from missing out on last week, which was potentially one of the biggest shows of the year, talking about the Bad Batch of the finale. But I'm back for this week. And yeah, can't wait to get into Tales because I'll preface with this. I, for one of the first times, have quite a negative review of something Star Wars. So it's going to be good. Oh. It's going to be interesting.
It's like Andor and
yeah,
the other one, Visions all over again.
I'm getting flashbacks.
Chris will join us in progress. Chris specifically let us know he would call in to discuss Barasafi. That would be the segment of the show that we get Chris for. So whenever we get around to talking about Barris, we should have Chris joining us, but back with us for another week. This time he's not in my living room, he's in his own living room. From the band F105, it's our old buddy Din. Welcome back.
Good day there. It's good to be back after crashing your show last week.
Oh boy.
That was good.
Good day there.
Amiga,
how
is
you
that
going?
Why is it getting higher?
Yeah. Becoming more.
Oh, it's a spot-on impersonation of you. Come on,
it's spot on. The audio listeners won't know who's speaking.
Yeah. So that's why we're gonna have to insist that you stop doing the impression. One of you two has to stop doing the impression
because it's so good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Din's back with us.
No one will tell.
Din's back with us because as you heard last week, the new album is out. F1053 Baby Makes 3 Mix. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and of course we played the song last week. And wow, Din's going to join us for the conversation about Tales of the Empire as well. But before we dive into that, Hannah, you mentioned it. You missed last week because you were doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from you unless, of course, you watch the Raeside, which I'm sure everybody does. But if for some reason you watch the show and not the Raeside, you don't know what Hannah thought of the Bad Batch finale. So give us your real quick overview of what you thought of the cavalry has arrived.
I thought it was probably one of the best finales of any Star Wars show to date. I think it could not have been more captivating. It could not have been more of a, full story. It had so much suspense and it was told so very well. I think one of the key things that made the story very, very intriguing was that all of the characters that we had on the screen, we did not know how they ended up. All of the Bad Batch, all down to characters like Rampart, Nala Se, Hemlock, all these characters that we all know throughout the show. We have no idea how they end up. So the suspense in that finale was fantastic. Like at any moment, I'm like, someone's gonna get shot dead right now. Oh my god! So that was just so fun. That tension to have throughout that episode, and then the absolute shock, the biggest shock of the episode was everyone survives, except for Hemlock and a few others as well. But all of our Bad Batch buddies survived, which was just beautiful, so hopeful, so wonderful to watch. And then, all I remember now is just crying like an absolute baby in the epilogue. Beautifully done, beautifully told. The story that they just lived a batchy happily ever after, and then Amiga continues that fight, continues that kind of warrior spirit that they imparted on her along. It was beautiful. I love that. I think, I can't think of another Star Wars show that had such a perfect, like there's been fantastic season finales. Obviously Clone Wars was fantastic. But this one was it was in a different perspective, and I just so loved it, and everything felt wrapped up to me. I loved it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it did. It had a real sense of finality, but it was everybody got to live just this once. Everybody lives.
Surprisingly,
it's nice.
Yeah.
Dan, I think in all of your appearances in last week's show, when you ran into the studio, we never actually asked you what you thought of the Bad Batch finale. Do you want to give us a real quick overview of what you thought?
Well, my immediate post watch usual hyperbolic reaction was, this is the best ending, best finale since Return of the Jedi. But I always say stuff like that right after I see something I like in Star Wars. And now I still think Obi-Wan is my favorite finale. Well, I don't know. I thought it was great emotionally. The word that I would use that I think is indicative of how I felt would be consoling. Like good fantasy endings tend to make me feel consoled and good about the dark things that the characters have gone through on screen, and as a viewer with them, and you feel sort of consoled by it. Tolkien used that word, that good fantasy should do that, and that episode definitely did that. So that's the best thing I could say about it.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. So we'll dive into Tales of the Empire in just a second, but first we want to remind you of a couple of things. First and foremost, make sure you're subscribed. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you can. That way you'll never miss an episode. And as you know, as you may have noticed in the last month, we do occasionally do bonus episodes, and this is a good way to make sure you don't miss those. During the show, if you want to super chat with us, that's one way you can support the show financially and get a good chance of getting your question read during the show. You can also become a channel member if you're not watching live, and if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please do that. We appreciate those, especially the 5-star ones. And of course, join the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. There's all sorts of fun stuff that goes on there. There's game nights, movie nights, general discussions. You can get in on the Ask the SWU stuff before the show itself starts. Ben, anything exciting people should know about that's coming up? Are you still watching Young Jedi Adventures?
Well, now that you mention it, we definitely are. I believe it's this Friday night. We will be continuing our foray, perhaps I definitely do not know how many episodes we have left. Maybe finishing out Young Jedi Adventures. Maybe we will have Young Jedi Adventures finished by the time the Acolyte shows up, so we can just slide right into it.
This is what I was telling you should do.
Yeah, so I think at the very least we should have a clean get into that. But then we've been doing a lot of impromptu stuff. There's Star Wars stuff in Fortnite. There's Star Wars stuff in Fall Guys now. So there's a lot of big, gigantic games, multiplayer games that are servicing us Star Wars fans, and we've been doing a lot of stuff. And we built a whole freaking village in Lego Minecraft, not Lego Minecraft, Lego Fortnite. It all runs together. We're doing a lot of stuff in there.
Ultimate crossover.
It's a lot of things. So just keep an eye on the Discord. Honestly, you never know when something might pop up inadvertently, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And make sure you're following us on social media at the SWU, especially on Threads. Of course, also check out all the other great shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. There's the Raeside on the Raeside channel. There's Ion Cannon and Tractor Beam on this channel. Ion Cannon's on Monday nights, Tractor Beam's on Wednesday nights. And there's Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, mainly streaming on Twitch, but they also have a YouTube presence as well. Hannah, I know you've had a lot of really exciting stuff go up on the Raeside. You've had a sweet interview. You've had lots of May 4th content. Do you want to give people a little bit of an overview of what you've been doing? Because there's some really good stuff that people shouldn't be missing out on over on the Raeside.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was last week in celebration of the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace. I got to have a very lengthy conversation with Gavin Bouquet, who was the production designer on Phantom and also Attack of the Clones and Revenge. The best part about this interview is I was prepped with I had 8 questions. It was going to be this power 20-minute thing. I didn't want to, waste his time. I want to be respectful. But Gavin was just such a fantastic, creative person. And he just loved talking about Star Wars, and he loved talking about Phantom Menace, and he loved talking about the prequels. And all in all, we had a 2-hour conversation, but the interview itself posted about an hour and a half, and it was such a great insight into the process of the prequels and specifically Phantom. And I had a fantastic time speaking to him, so I hope it's a very good interview and conversation. And he really shares so many anecdotes from creating the films, because he's kind of position with making the prequels was pretty much him, George, and Rick McCallum were like a little trio, and they would just work together all the time, hang out together all the time. So he had just fantastic, really random stories about all those 2 other guys as well, which was really, really special. So yes, if you've got an hour and a half of nothing to do, or you just want something to listen on the way home of a commute or something, chuck that interview on, because it's a good listen. I think I talk for 3 minutes of it. It's just him telling fantastic stories. So that's why I'm it's great, because it's not as much me. It's just him sharing amazing insights. So definitely check it out. It's I think I called it a conversation with Gavin Bouquet or something like that. So production designer for the prequels. So yeah.
Amazing. Yes, definitely check it out. It's a great conversation. Really, really interesting stuff. Great insight into the making of the prequels. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about Tales of the Empire. 6 new episodes, 3 of them written by Amanda Rose Munoz, 1 written by Nicholas Anastasio. Apologies, Nicholas. And 2 written by Matt Michnovitz. Then we've got 3 of the episodes directed by Nathaniel Villanueva, 2 by Stuart Lee, and 1 by Saul Ruiz. Let's go around the table, give some initial impressions on the episode. And Benjamin, happy May the 4th or May the 9th or whatever this day is. We're going to throw it to you first. What do you think of Tales of the Empire?
May the 9th be with you. I don't know. By the time some of you will be watching this, it'll be the 10th, 11th, the 12th. I don't know. So I don't know how. I know there's there's Revenge of the 5th. Beyond that, I don't know. Point is, I really did enjoy these sets of episodes. I'm not sure how I feel overall, how I would compare them to Tales of the Jedi. I'm just thrilled that we're continuing to get these things. I like I'm just thrilled with the general concept of like, okay, these little shorts that gives us little windows into different characters' lives and tells these interesting stories that are also in and of themselves connected. Because we have ultimately this story of, a terrible person just continuing to double down on themselves and all their terrible decisions, and juxtaposed to a person that we know made some terrible decisions and we thought maybe they could go down a path, but they kind of don't, and they make up for that, and they are redeemed in the end. And I think it's really interesting that we are now here with Tales of the Empire, and it's a great concept of themselves. And it goes without saying, the animation, the music, everything is gorgeous. It's all top notch. But the story itself is, I think, really, really great. Not without my qualms, not without stuff that I'm left like going like, oh, what is going on there? Sometimes I am left with questions, and it's not like they're not of the rhetorical variety. I'm not like being critical. I'm just like, I don't know about that. Someone help me out with this because things, and maybe I'll mention a few of them later if I can think of them. But like ultimately, it is. I mean, I think it's a beautiful concept. It's a beautiful set of episodes that I think I want more of this. I want more of these happenings, and I love that we're here now getting to experience this. If we got one of these every once in a while on a May 4th, I'd be very, very happy. But overall, I really did enjoy these.
All right. Din, let's go to you next. If you have figured out where you're going to put your action figures in relation to where you're sitting.
You've been doing it like the whole time.
I'm trying to get Barris somewhere where people could see her from the Tartakovsky series. Oh, by the way, it's Nicholas Anastasio.
Thank you.
If you want to speak Greek.
Again,
I'm half Greek. I can make fun of Greeks.
Yeah.
What's that? What'd you say, Hannah?
Yeah, the pitch is so high.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, you go way up there with your impressions.
It's
They're all in
whenever
falsetto.
That's right.
Whenever I go back to Greek church, your name Din? Oh, it's from Constantinos. The first emperor of Christian. You speak Greek.
It just turns into Mickey Mouse anytime he's
that's related to Tales of the Empire because
it's all good to me.
What'd you think of the shorts, Din?
Yeah, after rewatching them about 6 times, now I really dig them.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're made to be. I think they're made to be challenging. They're not. It's not normal Star Wars, Clone Wars storytelling. It's actually more Star Wars Visions, which would be why Hannah doesn't like it. And it's definitely Dave Filoni being a fan of Japanese animation. Yeah, because the storytelling is completely Japanese anime. Even the sound, and it's more tone poems. Like George likes to use that word. It's more sometimes things aren't spelled out like they would be in a normal episode of Star Wars storytelling, and it's fast, and it's more about a tone of what happened than the literal kind of viewing of what happened. If that makes sense. It works symbolically, like in a Campbellian way, actually, and it's all tone and symbols. It's not really. I could see why people don't like it, but yeah, after about 6 viewings, I got it and really loved it. Yeah.
Nice. Hannah?
6? Did you say 6 viewings?
Yeah, I mean, what else am I gonna? When I get home at night, my way to decompress is to watch stuff. Usually, I'm watching stuff like documentaries on ancient civilizations or aliens or stuff like that. But when new Star Wars is out, what's that?
So that's the Greek coming out of you.
Yeah, the Greek. I mean. Because there's a lot of ancient civilization stuff.
Yeah, Stan, we're gonna. As much as I loathe to interrupt you, Chris is. Yeah,
don't interrupt me, man. I'm the guest here. That's rude.
I was trying to figure out how to type in like the chat somewhere, like add me when it's a good time. But you added me before I could.
We're adding you now. We're adding you now because I think now is the perfect time for a rant or spewing of positivity about Barra Sophie. I'm not sure which way this is going to go. So let's go. Chris, your thoughts on Tales of the Empire.
Okay, so I've only seen it once, so I think I might have more thoughts after watching it again. But my thoughts is that I definitely like the bar stuff better than the Morgan Elsbeth stuff. I thought that was cool. I thought that was really cool. And if that's all we got, I would have been like, okay, this is cool. I'm glad I watched this. But like, that was just like, your baseline good Star Wars. The Barriss Offee stuff was like transcendent, amazing Star Wars at its best, in my opinion. And I thought it was so cool because this is a developmental series, kind of developing who's going to follow in the footsteps of Filoni, making things. And so, having, Matt McNivish step up and Rick Villanueva step up and really kind of like, or Nathan. Wait, which Villanueva is it?
Nathaniel.
Thank you.
There's so many. There's so many.
This is an inside joke. Hi, Rick.
Yes.
We sometimes confuse you for a Star Wars director. But Nathan Villanueva, it's great that they're stepping up because I literally thought, like, was this written and directed by Dave Filoni? Was it when I was watching it? And then, of course, he had a lot to, he's still overarching everything and all the producing stuff and story, supervisor and everything. But I thought they did an amazing job kind of taking the helm, writing and directing some amazing episodes. So yeah, I thought getting the ending or I guess in some ways a continuation, dependent on how you look at it, of Barriss' story was really cool. We've been seeing, just like we saw kind of like the shadows of tech everywhere. We were seeing the shadows of Barriss Offee everywhere for a while. Every time there was like an Inquisitor that looked female, we were like, is that Barriss? Is that Barriss? Is that Barriss? Yes. And we finally got her. We finally got the story. And I'm glad that instead of it just being a random cameo in somebody else's story, it was a whole story about her. I think that was really cool. She's such an interesting character. So yeah, I'll have more to say about this in the future whenever her character comes up again, or I have a chance to talk about it and I can really delve into it. But I think my initial thoughts are just like, I think it's really cool that it was a message of, redemption. It was her best quality, which is always questioning things, actually doing something amazing, which is questioning the Inquisitors and the Grandmaster and Grand Inquisitor and Vader and everything. And so I thought that was cool that her authentic self actually did something positive and amazing. And I thought that in the end, it was a message of forgiveness, which I thought was really cool because I was trying to think like, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? And I haven't fully got an external source about what it means, but internally what I can imagine is like the Jedi believe that the Force is within everything and that they become one with the Force when they die. So in a sense, Barriss and I think it's the fourth sister, they're both, the Force is both in them, is both binding them together just as it binds everything. So forgiving someone else is like forgiving yourself. And that's why it's so powerful to forgive somebody else. So I think that her forgiving the fourth sister was also part of her own catharsis of forgiving herself. And that was the immediate kind of realization that I got from it. So I thought that was really cool, really Jedi-like, really Lucasian, really Filonian. And great job for Matt and Nathan. They did a great job. I loved those episodes. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you've drilled in on the message there. Yeah. And we talk a lot about what redemption looks like in Star Wars and these characters, because it's such a huge theme in Star Wars, and these characters come back from the dark, and it's an interesting process. I have some thoughts on that we'll get to later, because I agree with you in principle, I don't love how it wound up, but we'll get there.
Fascinating. I'll have to listen back to what your thoughts are on that and think of my own thoughts for later. So I'm glad I could drop by. I'm stuck 3 hours from home, which is why I'm just calling in. I'm in the forest.
Of course, I gotta say.
I was gonna say, when beautiful meadow you were in.
when you call in for a show that you're missing, it's sunshine and greenness and all this stuff behind you. When I call in for a show that I'm missing, it's freezing cold and dark. What the hell? Why is this like?
It's a mixture of the time difference and how far south I am compared to you. So you're welcome to come here anytime. I have a spare room. Amazing. Looking forward to seeing you this summer, I think.
Absolutely.
Here.
And then too.
Yes.
We'll have to fill
Actually,
you
I
in
don't
on
think
that
I knew
later.
that. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so
fill you in on
excited.
that later. Yeah.
I guess
I'm so excited. So, I can't really rate the first 3 episodes. We maybe like an 8 out of 10, and then I'll give like a 10 out of 10 to the Barris episodes if you're gonna do a ranking later. That's what I'm gonna put in.
Amazing. All right.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Hannah. It's time.
Oh,
It's time. We've all been waiting.
Oh no!
We've all been
I'm
waiting
scared.
for you to
maybe
drink
you've
the
set it up more
haterade and tell us what exactly you thought of these episodes.
Hey, I didn't get to
Well,
finish. I was interrupted.
Fearly anger.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I don't have anything to add. Go ahead.
What mythological documentary have you watched this week? Continue.
Oh yeah. No, Dom cleverly and insidiously brought in Chris when I was about to go off on that tangent.
Oh,
but yeah, I will promote the Y Files. I think it's the greatest show on the internet. Watch the Y Files. Watch the episode on the Tesla's pyramid, the Great Pyramid in Tesla.
But why?
All right, Hannah. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I maybe I came off a little strong at the start, maybe a little strong, because I will preface with I'm just appreciative that we have new Star Wars every week. Well, not every week, but frequently, very very frequently, and I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's something. If we didn't have it, we would be sitting here complaining that we don't have new Star Wars all the time. So I very much appreciate that we had this. And it was something to look forward to, and I was very excited for it. Going into the 2 stories, very interestingly, opposite to Chris, I really connected and enjoyed the Morgan Elsbeth stuff. I think that's a character, just from my opinion and my interest. I really wanted to know just more about her context, more about her backstory. It makes sense, the whole losing her mother, and how that set her on the path that she went on, and that how that set up her perspective, and maybe the mistakes or just the wrongdoings that she ended up doing in life. Because really, we know Morgan's end of life. We just wanted to see the early parts of it. So I enjoyed that. I really loved that. I think each of her stories really fit what they were trying to tell with her. Barris, on the other hand, I just cannot for the life of me connect with. I just don't. Is it comprehension? I don't know. Maybe I need to watch it 6 times. I just don't connect with it at all. It felt like to me like a fan fiction. It felt like something that was a cool idea, but I just couldn't connect with to Barris's character in an interesting way. I liked elements of it. In the direction they took, that she was broken out of prison by the Inquisitors, and well, not broken out of, but she was like released from prison. It makes sense. Force user, Inquisitor, the way in which they told the story, I just felt not satisfying at all. I like the ideas and the direction, but I don't know if her story suited to be in this format, because I think I think you said it. The word that comes to mind with watching these tales stories is that they are very much like poems, and that's something I had to understand, that these aren't Clone Wars episodes and these aren't Bad Batch episodes. And maybe I was a bit used to that. Okay, we're getting 22 minutes of a larger, bigger story. And I think that was kind of preset subconsciously in my mind. So then when we get these 11-minute poetic little whiffs of a conceptual journey, it felt a little jarring at first. But when I stepped past that, so I think I was kind of predisposed to be a bit like, oh, this isn't a full story. When I stepped past that, I still can't quite connect to Barris's journey in terms of where they took her. And how quick that turnaround was. And I think that comes from a place of I would have wanted to see her journey of that. If she did, she started on the Inquisitor path, she sees that it's bad and then turns. I think I would have wanted to see that in a much more fleshed out form, and a much more expanded form. I don't think that story suited in a total of a 30-minute, all these 3 episodes combined. I don't think that suited that format. For my interest of it. for my interest of it, because I know a lot of people. I mean, like Chris, like I that kind of makes sense. I'm like, yeah, this is something he would love. Like, absolutely, people loved it. But for my taste, I'm like, I think it's such an interesting character and it's such an interesting story. Like, that could have been a whole show, really. It could have been an Inquisitor show, and Barriss could have been one of the main characters. You know what I mean? Like, I think it could have really been a bigger story. So I don't know if and I think that's why I didn't enjoy this short format of it. Yeah, I have further kind of thoughts. Again, there's a few story points that I really love, and I thought that was really interesting. But overall, I just could not connect to the Barriss stuff. But Morgan Elsbeth, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That all makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think these Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire and Tales of whatever else they're gonna do, it almost feels like it's people going, all right, we know people love these characters, we know people are interested in these characters, but we don't have a proper venue for their stories. We don't have a proper place to tell Dooku's story. We don't have a proper place to do Morgan's backstory. We don't have a proper place for the Barriss story. And so we're going to do them here. And they're going to be, tone poems. They're going to be summaries, in essence, of what is the larger story for these characters. And we're going to do them in these 10 to 12 minute sort of riffs, these just kind of ideas. We're going to give you a little taste, a little moment that is meant to speak for the larger experience. And I think, that can work really, really well, but it can also, I think it can miss in places as well. For me, I think Tales of the Empire, like, the experience of watching it was almost identical to Tales of the Jedi, where there was one storyline where it was like, every episode of this is perfect and amazing, and I really, really love it. And then there was the other storyline where it was like, 2 of the episodes are pretty good, one's kind of weak, and of the 2 that are pretty good, it doesn't quite hit the same highs as the other one. So with Tales of the Jedi, the Dooku stuff was amazing, and the Ahsoka stuff was just okay for the most part. There's some pretty great stuff in there. For this one, for me, the Barriss stuff was the amazing stuff, and the Morgan stuff was just okay. And just okay is underselling it. I think it is really good and really strong in places, but like, I don't know. I didn't like the last Morgan episode. I was really underwhelmed by that one, but we'll go into those things a little bit more in a few minutes. But let's dive deeper into the Barriss story, because I think that's the one that it got the most attention going into this, and I think it's got the most people talking. Ben, let's start with you. We last saw Barriss on Clone Wars over a decade ago. We pick up the story with her in her cell, Order 66. What did you think of the way they went about, bringing Barriss out of where we last saw her and dropping her into the world of the Inquisitors?
Yeah, because I think overall that episode in particular, the 4th episode, is probably my favorite out of the thing, because ultimately it is this transitional episode, and we're seeing a lot of the rest of the episodes are kind of, whether Barriss or Morgan, they're kind of like fluid in regards to like where they take place in the timeline, and there's a lot of time jumping and whatever else. Whereas this episode is like squarely, this is Revenge of the Sith. Like, this is that time period. This is after things. And seeing all this stuff, seeing the Grand Inquisitor, seeing Vader, even though he doesn't talk, he's there. And seeing, the Fortress Inquisitorius being under construction. So many interesting things, I think, that as someone who I'm just like always fascinated with the lore and what the implications of it are, I'm just like, I'm glued into this. Like, it's giving me really what I want from Star Wars, which is just like, okay, this is the bigger picture in Star Wars, but also on a small scale, obviously, Barriss' story, picking up with her, giving us something that we haven't gotten in a while. And it is interesting because it's funny. I don't think I totally agree with a lot of what Hannah said. I think I'm sharing some of your brain today, just a little bit, just a little tiny bit, just a little bit, in regards to, I think I also was having a little trouble with just the Barriss story overall. I think I had some I mean, come on, we've had like what, a decade to like, think and speculate about what happened to Barris, because as Chris said, it was so many times. We got literally an Inquisitor in a mask who was Miri Allen, but in Rebels, but was not Barris somehow. Like that is still bewildering to me.
I remember when we first saw the Seventh Sister in something, and you put up an article on our old website, and you said this Inquisitor is almost certainly Barrisoffy. And I remember messaging you and being like, no, it isn't. And you're like, obviously it is. And we had this like debate back and forth. And I think we wound up like changing the wording just slightly. But yeah, you were like, it has to be. It felt like that would have been very on brand for Rebels to bring her in there. But that's neither here nor there. They did get around to it now, I guess is the point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to like, whether a character dies or we just don't know what happened to it. I think it's good to like shelve a character and go like, I think it's cool that Ventress is back now after being gone for so long. Now we grieved her. Now she's back. And with Barris, the same thing of just like, we kind of didn't know and leaving those questions open, leaving things. But I think I was looking at a lot of the specifics in The Wrong Jedi and going like, she has this thing, one moment that sticks out to me where she's fighting Anakin and she's using Ventress's lightsabers, and Anakin tells her, you should have gotten rid of those lightsabers. She's like, nah, I think they suit me. I'm like, wow, that's a very dark thing to say. That's like, is she going to the dark side at this point? And then she has her old big speech. And I know, yes, the speech is her kind of being right about a lot of things. She's right about the Jedi, as she says, fighting for the dark side and being these pawns of the Sith. And she's not with the Sith. So it makes sense in the long term of her kind of being thrown into the Inquisitorius and then realizing, oh crap, this is not cool. I always thought that could be the case. But there is a lot of moving pieces here that it does happen. I guess it's a product of the medium, product of this thing of, I would have liked her to spend a little bit more time dabbling with the dark side, a little bit more time, being an Inquisitor, kind of being that, really be immersing herself in that world and then coming out and going like, okay, no, this is okay. It's just that thing. She spends one entire episode going towards the darkness, and then leads up to that big moment where she kills the other guy. And then the next episode immediately starts with her questioning everything and really just being a Jedi. Like she's totally not on board with being an Inquisitor. And it makes sense, but it's a bit of a tonal whiplash to me. That's kind of my issue with all episodes. Like overall though, her journey is great. I think giving her a redemption story, I think is great. And I think it's a great little, as you said, a tone poem, if you will, of her character. And, and yeah, it's a, not to jump too far ahead, but like, we don't know what happens next. Like, is she dead? Is she alive? Like I was shocked at how much of a cliffhanger they left this on.
Yeah. You know what I hate is that I'm kind of sounding, I feel like, and I genuinely feel like this, I feel like I'm one of those people that hates how Luke Skywalker was in the sequels. And it's like, Luke Skywalker is my everything, and I don't like his story. That's kind of in a hopefully non-toxic way how I feel.
You hate Luke Skywalker?
No, as in like Ahsoka is like my Luke Skywalker. And that arc she went on in Clone Wars in season 5, and Barris was a really integral part of that. And I feel like this story of Barris didn't do justice to the severity and the intensity of that story and journey. And so I'm kind of a little bit stuck in my own, a bit stubborn of, this should have been bigger and this should have been better. And I don't, and actually I think that's where I do still disagree. I don't think she should have had a redemption. Barris shouldn't have should have had a redemption. I think maybe she should have had maybe a neutralizing or something, which to an extent she kind of did. Like it wasn't like she just then became, started a new Jedi Order. Like she just became a Force wielder, kind of in a neutral sense, which I guess is better. But I think that I again, I would have preferred that in a much larger sense. Like she took down like Ahsoka and, you know, the Padawan of the biggest Jedi at the time, like massive story point and piece of history in the Jedi Order. And it's like, oh, she just regrets it after like one mission.
You could almost really? Argue that without her, Anakin wouldn't have fallen to the dark side. You could almost argue that it all hinges on Barriss. Yes. Yeah, so that is big. I'll agree with you.
Yes, there. Right. So
anyway. where I'll disagree with though, I think Barriss, you know, she has that line that you mentioned, Ben. Oh, I think the red lightsabers suit me, but she's not. She does bad things. She does evil things, but I don't see her as an evil character the way you see Vader or Grievous or the Emperor. She when she gives that speech to the court during Ahsoka's trial, where she sort of fesses up to everything, she's right. She was right about everything in there, about how the Jedi have lost their way. And so while she certainly went about proving this point or making this point in a not good way, you know, people died, ultimately her views, her want for the galaxy doesn't line up with the Empire. It doesn't line up with Palpatine. She's not out for number one. Her complaint with the Jedi is that they are, you know, they are probably too much out for themselves. They're not seeing the big picture. They're not helping the people they're supposed to help. So when she, you know, has her flirtation with the dark side and goes about, you know, bombing the Jedi Temple and to make this point and framing Ahsoka and all that stuff, ultimately her goal is to try and bring down the corruption of the Jedi Order. Once the Jedi Order is gone and her enemy, her target is gone, it would be weird to me if she stuck around and became an Inquisitor, because her goal wasn't to be, you know, be Vader, be the Emperor. Her goal was to get the Jedi back to where they were supposed to be, which, if we jump all the way to the third episode, is basically what she's doing. That's basically what she becomes. She becomes what the Jedi should be, could be, should aspire to be. And you know, so and even in the second episode, right? They arrive at that planet and the fourth sister's like, you know, or Barriss comments, she's like, oh wow, things are really desolate, things are really bad. I thought the Empire was supposed to make things better. And the fourth sister's like, yes, but these people, they're harboring Jedi, so they can't have anything. They can't have good things. They can't have nice things. Barriss is like, okay, so let's get rid of the Jedi so they can have nice things. Like, her goal is still, she's not interested in punishing people. She's not interested in these things that are quintessential to the Empire. So ultimately, she's more Saw Gerrera than she is General Grievous, than she is Count Dooku. She does not agree with the politics of the Empire. She doesn't agree with the politics of the Jedi. And she goes about, you know, making that point in ways that we as the audience and the characters that we typically align ourselves with don't agree with. But ultimately, her end goal is not the tyranny of the Empire. It is some sort of freedom, some sort of Jedi Order that is more open and approachable for the people, which is why it works for me, which is why the story really does work for me.
And I do like the Grand Inquisitor speech when they first come in, because it's more, he more frames it as, oh, the Jedi are gone, we're the replacements. Like we're the new crew in town that's going to take care of things. The Jedi went bad. They tried to assassinate the Chancellor. They're bad. We're the good guys now, and we're going to take care of things, and we're going to turn something new, a new coven. He uses the word. I like that framing of, and I think maybe the point there, things, and it was something I would have liked to see more explored, is just like the idea of kind of preying on these younger, probably less experienced Jedi that are just like, okay, cool. All right. Well, I was a Jedi, now I'll just be the Inquisitor thing, and we'll just bring order to the galaxy and, whatever. And, I think it's just that Barriss is someone who is very powerful and also very, smarter than the average Jedi, probably, and someone who was clearly you know, she is, like you said, like a more of a Saw Gerrera, kind of a revolutionary type of just like, let's face it, people, there's plenty of people throughout our world history that maybe they had a point, but they went about it all wrong. That is the point of Saw Gerrera, and that is ultimately the point of Barriss Offee, someone who really did have a point, but they decided to kill people and bomb in a building and just like, okay, that's Barriss. You're kind of countering your point here. And maybe I think all that time in that cell probably helped turn her around a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps I think more the time with the Empire and seeing what the galaxy looks like without the Jedi. Because I really do think in that third episode, when she is the healer, she's the, what are they calling her? Wise mother, I think. Old mother, wise mother, something like that. Like that to me, that's what the Jedi are supposed to be. That's what they're supposed to be like, rather than, our friends in the high towers on Coruscant. I don't know. What do you think, Hannah? You just let out a very telling sigh.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? And I was like, oh, that's not muted. That would have been really intense. Like, oh.
You're like, not these guys again with these friggin' Barriss apologists.
Yeah. Which the reason I sighed is going to be so different to the sound of that. I'm
so
no,
excited.
I had the realization when you're like, oh, that's what they call her, like the wise mother or like mother or whatever. I'm like, that's what Taylor Swift fans call Taylor Swift. we call her like the mother and like the great mother. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Idea.
I was just like, yeah, that's cool. That's a cool connection. That was literally why I sighed. I was like, huh. Like, it's more of like a wow, isn't that weird?
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's good.
Anyway,
it's great. Din, what have you thought? You've been quiet there.
Yes, you've been
What's
musing
that?
over there.
I'm Chris now, by the way.
Okay, we can't hear you. You've moved your microphone away from your mouth.
Because of the hat.
It's still here. You can't hear me?
Yeah, we can, but you're like, it sounds like you're at the end of a tunnel.
Oh my god.
Put your microphone by your mouth.
You're doing to me.
Sorry.
I can sing some Taylor Swift.
You can hear me now?
Now we can, yeah.
I'm Chris now, by the way.
Yeah, you got the hat.
He's gonna be in a green meadow now. Yeah, I love it.
What, Din? What did you think of Barriss's arc across these episodes?
Well, again, it's more Japanese storytelling. It's like gray areas. I don't even like the word redemption. Like, I don't like the word that person's good or bad or better or worse. I don't like any of that stuff. Like, who does she have to be redeemed to? Like, who's judging her? Like, I don't even care about all that. So that's why I like this episode. I more think that it's more profound to focus on not whether you're redeemed in people's eyes, but like, do you feel redeemed? Do you feel healed on the inside by what you're going to do now don't talk now in this moment? I'm going to lose my train of thought. So the idea is, do you feel healed now in this moment? And are you going to continue your thoughts, words, and actions into the next moment in a healing way? And I think that's why I like the Barriss episodes, because they sort of deal with her moment to moment. And I don't think she was ever on the dark side or the light side. See, that's the problem. I like how they explored that in the Force Awakens with Kylo. That really, if you want to be powerful, you have to be fully on the light or fully on the dark. You have both within you, but if you want to utilize, it's like if you want to use the full power of the thing, you have to give yourself to it fully. So I think the idea of gray doesn't work, because you eventually, you're just weak because you're always in conflict. You have to commit to something to be able to do it. And Barriss wasn't committed to either way, and I feel like she went through this arc to commit to the light. Yeah, and I like that, and it's subtle. It's subtle.
Yeah. All I was going to say is it was fitting that you put the Chris hat on, because like that was sort of what Chris was getting at earlier was, redemption is more of an internal thing. Like you heal yourself by healing others. And that's what, Barris ultimately in that final episode is trying to do with the fourth sister, with Lynn. Is she's trying to get her to see the errors in her way and come back to the light the same way that Barris did. And as someone sorry, go ahead.
I like what Chris said, if we're all one, then healing someone else is healing yourself, or giving for, if you live for giving to someone else, if they're one, then you live for giving to yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more powerful to me to think of the word forgiving is in something that's practical. Forgiving, you're giving yourself to someone, rather than like I don't know, this abstract concept of you're forgiven.
That's fair. I will say the one part of this the one part of the Barris story that I wasn't thrilled by was that I didn't like that she died. Can I say that? I didn't like that she died.
Is she dead for sure?
Did she?
Yes, she did. Don't start with that. As someone who spent the last several months committed to the idea that Tech was still alive, let me tell you, don't start with that. No, but like she could be alive, she could be surviving. I'll leave that open to it. But the way the episode ends, I think we're meant to be left with the idea that she's dead. That the fourth sister stabs her, and she says, "I'll get you out of here." And like Barris's final act is to help Lynn get out of the ice cave, and in doing so, get out of the stop being trapped within her mind, within the dark side.
Right.
So to me, it's a death. But I will leave open the possibility that maybe we should start a Barris is alive watch to go along with Tech is alive watch. But I liked Barris in the role that she was in at the start of the final episode, in that kind of, in the wise mother role, as the healer that people would go to. I don't need her to be, a grand hero of the rebellion. I don't need her to be a grand hero of the new Jedi Order or anything. I liked her as this kind of quirky, off to the side person that people could go to with their problems, with their sicknesses, that they need, stuff that they needed healing, and she was there for them in the time of it. I really liked that, and I was hoping that could be somewhere that she stayed.
I really hope. Hang on, Din. It looks like you're saying a great point, but you're muted. Oh, you're still muted. You look really enthusiastic. Can you? Yeah, don't explode. It's You're exploding. Continue. We're exploding.
Everything and nothing at the same time.
This is like weird charades. TIE fighter down the tunnel. Blow up the Death Star. We're gonna blow up the Death Star. Go down the tunnel. Blow up the Death Star.
Go find your Death Star.
Oh boy. Oh, mouse. You can't click on it. He can't click it. Do we click it? You want us to click for you?
I think
phenomenal podcast.
I think you should make your point.
I don't know what that was, but that was.
How are you back now? Okay, anyway. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Yes, I really, Dom, if you do not have a picture for this guy, I'm going to leave. The best part of the Barris episodes was that furry ice mole guy that was like helping Barris, but then like helped that couple with the baby, like to Barris. That little mole guy that would like roll up and like go through the snow was the best part of this whole show. He was phenomenal and he was fantastic. and I loved him dearly.
Was that a Last Jedi homage? Like, to me, that was clearly a Last Jedi homage with the wall of ice and then the pathway, like the silver foxes.
It was like the Last Jedi
Red on the ground as well.
Yeah, it was like Last Jedi meets the Gathering from the Clone Wars kind of vibe to it. Lost in the ice maze with the crystal critters.
But it may have even been that planet because there was red on the ground as well. Crate. It may have even been Crate.
Yeah.
Barris could have started the first location that became a rebel base.
Be cool. I do not have a picture of that critter because annoyingly Lucasfilm has not released any official imagery from the second and third Barris episodes. So there's
Disney?
stuff. There's stuff
I'm telling you, Disney Star Wars.
Every Morgan Elsbeth episode. There's stuff from all of them, and then there's stuff from the first Barris episode. And anything that's from the second and third episode are like fan screenshots, so they're slightly lower quality, and there aren't very many of them out there that I could find. So, I don't have that. But they were really keeping the secrets on parts 5 and 6 of Tales of the Empire. They did not want that stuff out there.
Yeah.
Shall we shift gears and talk about Morgan Elsbeth and her journey through episodes 1 through 3? We've kind of done this in a Star Warsy order: 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Let's start with the first Morgan episode, which takes place on Dathomir within the events of the Clone Wars episode Massacre. Hannah, let's go right back to you. What did you think of how they situated Morgan Elsbeth's backstory within this sort of rich period of the Clone Wars?
Wonderfully. I think it was a fantastic time period to go back to. I think it felt right. It made sense. Fantastic little sequence they had here with the droids. It's always fun to see droids again. You always think they're like, oh, that's the end of the battle droids. And then they'll show up in a random episode of Rebels. And you're like, wow, they never go away. And so it's always good to see battle droids again. As well as battle droids.
Yeah.
Mandalorian. Exactly. It's like, what? Gee, they just keep showing up. Can't get rid of them. But yeah, I think it was a fantastic spot of the Star Wars history and Star Wars timeline to go back to. And to see this kind of chaotic moment, this traumatic moment in Morgan's life was very integral to understanding her personality. So I really loved it. And I think it was a great spot to go back to.
And Ben, like this episode, Ben, like this, it has become such a touch point within the Star Wars canon and the Star Wars storytelling.
Right.
It's essential to Morgan's backstory. It's essential to the character arc of Marin in the Jedi video games, The Fallen Order, Survivor. Like, I don't know. I honestly, when this episode first aired, I remember just sort of thinking like, that was awesome. Probably never really deal with the repercussions of that. It's kind of become like this sort of like mainstay thing in the Star Wars galaxy. Star Wars story.
Yeah, it is. I was just thinking about today. It's funny how we've had like multiple instances where we have a character go through this, witness a very thing. So at least 2 characters have run-ins with General Grievous, and then end up at the end going like, "Oh my gosh, I'm the only Night Sister left." And then there's like, no, 10 feet away, there's another Night Sister. You guys just need to get together and have therapy or something like that. Like Ventress and Morgan and yeah, they just all need to get together because it is kind of getting weird. It's a little overcrowded with these last of the Night Sisters, but I this first episode I really did enjoy. And I mean, I think it's some great action, beautiful action, beautiful to go back to Dathomir always, and to also get another side of the story, get more into, okay, well, yeah, of course there was the Night Sisters, but then there's the Mountain Clan, and there's other people that use the Force in a completely different way that can apparently just conjure up an EMP and destroy the droids. Like, that's really cool. Ultimately, I think that whole side of things I think is really cool, and then going further with Morgan's story, her kind of Dave Filoni, obviously, through this show and through these creators, kind of tailoring the backstory that he already had, like throwing in the TIE Defenders thing, and they got something that I did not see coming. I think it mostly works. And ultimately, where she ends up, I think I also agree with you, Dominic. I think the last episode is probably the weakest. And I have a few qualms with it, but like overall, like I think I've liked these episodes more than I thought I would, because it was just like, I like Morgan Elsbeth, but also she's not one of my favorite characters. We have already, kind of got the buzzkill of, well, we've seen where she ends up. We know she dies. So what can they tell us about this character? And she doesn't have the open-ended ending of just like, oh, well, maybe she gets redeemed in the end. No, she's not. She's a bad person, and she's gonna continue to be a bad person until she dies. And that is what it is. What it is. So you just kind of let her live with that and go like, okay, well, let's back up a second and watch this story and see how it unfolds. And I did like it.
Mm-hmm. Dan, I want to ask you, because there's the character, the sort of the wise, there's a lot of wise mothers in these episodes, who's kind of the hill clan or the mountain clan sort of leader. I don't know what the right word is, but she has the line to Morgan, you must not assume just because someone does not want to fight that they are not capable.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this character and her kind of attempting to get Morgan Elsbeth to kind of maybe not go down the path that she went down?
Well, I loved her a lot. She was wonderful. It reminds me of the time I've spent with, female elders in Native communities. It kind of had that vibe. I've spent weeks on protests in Indigenous communities like Grassy Narrows, Ontario. Longest running protest in the history of Canada, started by youth who stood in front of illegal logging trucks in their land when the adults wouldn't. But I digress. What was the quote again? Can you say the quote, because it's
you must not assume because someone does not want to you must not assume just because someone does not want to fight that they're not capable.
Yeah, so I have something to say to that, but can we talk about the names of the episodes, because I think that's what ties them directly to the tome poems of Lucas.
Yeah.
Remember, there was like the fear one with Maul, so it's a really great Phantom Menace connection that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's intentional.
Yeah, there's the path of fear, the path of anger.
Which one's this one?
Hate. This is the path of fear.
Yeah, because fear leads to anger.
Anger leads to hate. Yeah.
So I think the reason I watched it 6 times is because I realized you had to, because the storytelling doesn't tell you everything literally and in a way that's obvious. So what's happening here is like the Dagobah cave. I kept having to watch, like, how does this war start? And it starts because Morgan wants to fight. It starts because her internal state is attracting the fight. She goes into the cave, and she's in the cave. It's like the Dagobah cave, only what you take with you, and she's showing them the weapons. And as she's showing them, if you really watch closely, this is why I think this is all intentional. Even on a big screen, there's a really small probe droid that spots them going into the cave.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's why I wasn't just wasting time at night. I was like, I gotta be on Star Wars Underworld, and then I better have my poodoo together, man. So I have good stuff to talk about. But so because she just simply is internally in the direction of wanting to fight, she attracts it on. They're not doing anything. Actually, they're not doing anything wrong. She's showing the others weapons, and out of fear that they may have to fight, and that fear attracts the fearful. Like the old tome poem with Darth Maul. So that's in a nutshell what I think is going on in this episode and why I love it.
Yeah.
It's working on those subconscious Campbellian kind of Star Wars is not a literal story, really. It's a work of some symbolism That's how it works. You know, when I saw Alex, sorry to digress, but it's important because I love Alex from Star Wars Explained. I'm always watching his stuff. And he was talking about how there's this great video explaining all the stuff in the old trilogy. And he says, you know, explaining everything literally. But like, why is Luke upside down in the Wampa cave? And you try to come up with this in-universe explanation. Why would a Wampa hang him upside down? It's not important. It's symbolism. He's Peter, who he's like the St. Peter archetype. You know, if Anakin's like Jesus, you know, he's hanging upside down from a cross at the end of Empire Strikes Back. And that's what's powerful about it. That Peter didn't think he was worthy to be put on the cross like Jesus, so he wanted to be hung upside down. So literally Luke is strung out upside down, you know, with arms like this and the cruciform like St. Peter. And he's training with rocks halfway through the movie. On this rock I build my church. You know, Peter means rock in Greek, Petra. So I guess what I'm saying is that's what I loved. You really have to watch these episodes and view them like that if you're going to get them or like them. So not everyone's cup of tea, but I love it.
Nice. Nice. We go into the next episode, which I think like of the episodes, and feel free to disagree with this, anybody, but I think of, like, you just talked about the importance of symbolism and all that stuff in these episodes. And I think I definitely agree. I think the middle Morgan episode is probably the most sort of literal in the sense that it's like, how does she meet Thrawn? Where does the TIE interceptor design come from? Why does Corvus look the way it looks in the Ahsoka series? Like, why would these people, you know, how does she get control of that city and that sort of thing? But we do get the introduction of Morgan Elsbeth and Grand Admiral Thrawn, or in this episode just Thrawn, as through Paleon, who voiced by the same actor who plays him in Mandalorian, so keeping the consistency across the different series there. Hannah, let's go to you. What did you think of the introduction between Admiral Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth?
Yeah, this was a really interesting episode because, Dom, I think you said at the top of the show of this on surface maybe wasn't the most like mind-blowing episode, but it had the most interesting elements to it. The fact that we go back to this planet, which I always forget the name of, but that we see in The Mandalorian, and seeing Thrawn and Paleon, their kind of way in which they find these people to be a part of Thrawn's very mysterious, very elusive plans. I think that really is one of the key aspects in this episode specifically. And seeing Morgan, as much as she's doing these kind of erratic things, she's like captured these people and is not a great person to them. She doesn't actually really, to me, she doesn't really know why she's doing that. She's just kind of doing it because she wants to exercise the control to maybe find some sort of control in her own life. And so that, I think, was an interesting story. And then with Thrawn coming in, I mean, it's always great to see Thrawn, and it's always great to hear Lars as Thrawn. It's that buttery voice is unbeatable. And I think it was the marrying of those two ideas of Morgan has kind of lived a life of running on a bit of a mouse wheel of trying to get revenge, trying to satisfy the trauma that she experienced. But not really getting anywhere, not really knowing what to do with that. And then Thrawn coming in, sort of giving her this opportunistic way out of, you can be more, you can use your, vengeful feelings and be more with my plans and with me. I think, and understanding that of Thrawn's character was the marrying of these two concepts. So, on surface, it was like just kind of this episode was very factual, it was very literal, I thought as well. But on deeper thought, I actually really like how they put these two characters together. And then within it, there was all these random Easter eggs. I loved seeing the HK droids again. Morgan's like HK little security ninja guards. And then, of course, the involvement of Rook from Star Wars Rebels, which I thought was such a great... Yeah, right. It's such a great character to bring in just randomly again. It's not someone who had a massive play or reason in the Star Wars universe, but he had a big role in Rebels, and he had a big connection to Thrawn and that whole story. So seeing Rook again in this episode was really, really fun and great. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was quite good.
Mm-hmm. I stepped away, so I don't know what's been discussed. Have you just been monologuing, Hannah?
Yeah. No,
okay.
Actually, we were silent, and I just spoke. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, good.
No,
Okay.
I was just saying I like how they connected these two characters. It made sense where they're coming from.
And we talked about Rook.
Yes.
Rook. I cannot for the life of me say Rook like Paleon and Thrawn do. I cannot.
Rook.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Ben, I mean, Ben, let's get some thoughts from you about, this connection that seems to be forged between.
Somebody say connection?
Yeah, get in the corner. Get in the corner, buddy. No, what do you think of this connection that was sort of forged between, and Thrawn, who's out there looking for people who are, have a different way of thinking about the Empire, and Morgan, who is out for some sort of, is looking out is thinking something more than just your average Imperial ruler. What do you think of this connection that the two of them find?
I mean, it is interesting how, Thrawn, that's his whole thing, is that, he's, and it's explained more in the books, that he's not good at politics. He's not really good at the whole Imperial structure. And he has a lot of gripes with the Empire. He's not in the Tarkin camp of let's build a giant ball with a laser on it and blow up planets. Like, he's not on board with that idea. He has other grand plans. And, to his credit, I think if for some reason Thrawn was emperor or had been able to get rid of Tarkin or something like that and ended up in the Emperor's hand, the Empire would have been more successful, which makes the Mandoverse and all that's going on there all the more interesting, because he is a very effective things, and he understands, as he says in his great little speech there, that the Empire is full of flawed people that are greedy and have all these issues, and they focus on the wrong things. And I think him seeking out Morgan, I think, is really interesting. I do. It's a bit cliche. I'm sorry. It's let's just openly attack the character and see if they survive, and then the bad guy's just sitting off the side, like, oh yes, I was just testing you. I wasn't trying to kill you. But like, come on, we've seen this 1,000 times, Filoni. Come on. It's a big cliche, but I digress. It's fine. It's good. She gets to use her Beskar spear, and we get to see Rook in action. It's really cool. But I do like Thrawn's connection to her. I like him coming in and going on, okay, Night Sister, this is interesting. I want to see how this goes. And ultimately, I think my only complaint about this episode is that it's not long enough. I think ultimately, I think maybe that's something to do with like the next episode of just like her relationship with Thrawn is something that is implied so much, and we get so little of it, both in this show and in Ahsoka. And it's something that I think really it could because I have fully bought into the idea of like, yeah, okay, she was Thrawn's right-hand woman. She was doing all this kind of stuff for him. She was working for him behind the scenes. Maybe if we didn't know about it, like, I buy that, but the story hasn't done a whole lot to actually like sell that idea, at least not enough for my taste. I think this was a perfect opportunity to like really develop their relationship, but really we just get this episode like them just their first meeting, and that's basically it. I think I'm with Hannah. Like, the more Lars Mikkelsen, the better. Whether we can get him in on screen or off screen, just that voice is enough for me. And yeah, I just think not enough Thrawn in this episode. I think that Thrawn would have been better off, and then kind of what we then the weirdness we got in the next episode. So yeah.
I sort of think that's another issue, like that. I still don't get Thrawn. Like, he's so good to watch. He looks cool and his voice is compelling, and you have to listen to him when he talks, and that's great. But I don't get him. Like, what is he doing? Are we ever going to find out what he's doing? You know, he says the Empire is a wonderful construct. Well, why is it? Like, you can't just say that and expect me to accept it. Like, I need to see it. Like, what is he after, and how is it a good construct given what he's after? So that's where
more art documentaries. I think that's how you get Thrawn.
Yes. I don't know. I think we need like a whole mini series on Thrawn or something to make him make sense.
Yeah. I mean, from what we always see Thrawn through the eyes of the heroes, of the protagonists of the story. So we've never really been able to drill into what is he after, what is he interested in, what does he want. And this episode, it always seems to hint at something bigger, always seems to hint at something more, but we don't really get a sense of what that is. He says in this episode, he's sort of fascinated by the witches of Dathomir, the Night Sisters, and we know that he ultimately winds up forming some sort of alliance with them on Peridia in the time between this and Ahsoka. Like, he seems to have a larger view of the galaxy that is a bit more. Yeah, he seems to understand the mystical, or be interested in the mystical a bit more than I think previous iterations of the character were. And it seems to be going somewhere. It does feel like there's a plan and that there's something interesting to be done there. But I agree with you, Dan. I'm ready for the Thrawn miniseries, or the Thrawn episode of something that really lets us understand him, so that when the Heir to the Empire movie comes out, his motivations make sense to us, and we understand why he needs to be stopped beyond he's blue, he's scary, and his voice is really creepy.
Yeah, like it's clear as day. It's, the sentence is there in front of us. The Empire is a great construct.
Why? How?
Why do you think that? And what are you after with that? And we still have not gotten an answer out of all these Ahsoka and Rebels episodes, and now this. I don't know what he's doing.
What does he want? What does Grand Admiral Thrawn want? Let's talk about the last episode.
What's it called?
The last episode is called The Path of Hate.
Okay.
Path of Hate.
That should have been easy to figure out.
I don't let me start by saying this. I don't dislike the episode. Like, I don't watch it and go, oh, I hate this. I don't want to shake my fist at the TV. But I don't know. I felt like the other one, the previous two were so interesting. Were so sort of like, you get this really, you get the you start with the Grievous stuff, and then you lead into the stuff with the Hill tribes, and then you go into the next episode where you get this sort of the imperial politicking and Grand Admiral Thrawn, and just listening to Lars Mikkelsen speak is engaging, and then you get to this episode, which is interesting because it's post Return of the Jedi. It is a tale of the Empire after it's fallen, which is kind of neat in and of itself. But I was looking for a little bit more from Morgan Elsbeth. We know she continues Imperial stuff post Return of the Jedi, because that's a major plot point in the first couple of episodes of Ahsoka. We know she has the people of Corvus under her thumb. That's a plot point in the Ahsoka Mando episode. And seeing her just sort of shoo the New Republic away and, kill them all it was okay. It was good, but it was just kind of, the last episode ended on such a moment of Thrawn's like, what do you want? What motivates you? And she's like, revenge. And I'm like, here we go. That's interesting. That's exciting. And then the next episode is just, New Republic tries to shut her down and she says no. And I don't know. Maybe this is a product of expectations and speculation, but seeing the trailer and seeing the New Republic guards in there, I'd sort of thought, oh, this might be post, this might bridge the gap between Mando and Ahsoka, and we could get a little bit more of her motivation leading directly into Ahsoka. That could be cool. But instead, it was just kind of there. Is I guess my feeling on it. It's just sort of there. And I'll throw it out to everybody to agree, disagree, tell me I'm
Yeah,
a moron, tell me I'm right.
They don't follow up on the revenge thing. So I can understand how that's frustrating for viewers too. You know, I didn't have it because I'm a weirdo symbolist guy. I'm fine with that. And now when I hear you guys talk, Star Wars does have to be literal storytelling too, where things make sense. And I don't. Yeah, we don't know.
But I want to hear the symbolism version of it. Like I want to hear what they were going for, and I want to know what I'm missing. I guess is what I'm.
Well, no, but I mean, I think archetypally the symbolisms are working on us, whether we know it or not. Like I was saying about the cave thing in the first episode, and that's all working. It's very Japanese. Like not nothing's explained almost. You know, like how did the mother's daughter die? Is that because the mother let off the bomb? It's very tragic Japanese stuff, you know, that you would get out of Visions, like where someone makes a choice and then someone accidentally dies. But we didn't really have that explained. So almost nothing's explained in these episodes. I can see how that's frustrating. And how does the revenge thing connect to the next this episode? I don't know. So you're sort of starting again on a new story, but it does not serve the two stories before in a linear, literal way. But I think it does serve the Mando episode.
Okay,
by setting up why she's there.
Sure.
So I think Tales, like when they sat down to make it, it's like, let's just make it like Visions, and you get some answers and you get some cool viewpoints of what's going on, but it doesn't. I don't think it has to all be connected, in my opinion.
That's fair.
Perfectly, yeah.
That's fair.
It's just hinting at things and helping fill in like some spaces in the painting that weren't painted yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to me it comes back to this point of the format isn't this start, middle, end. It's a very interesting format of a story. It's not a book. It's like barely even a chapter. It's like this just kind of thought that there's no question, and I don't think there's a logical answer in the episodes. So
which is to interject, it's like poetry, right? It doesn't have to be literal.
Yeah. There's no like kind of conclusion to it even. It's kind of just a thought, and it's there. And I think by you saying that, Dom, of it's just there, it's like, well, maybe that's all we need to get from it. We actually just need to get that it's here. That's what is happening in the universe. That's what's happening in this part of the universe. And again, I read into this story of it's showing where Morgan misplaces her all this, you know, her fear, her anger. She misplaces her. She doesn't actually know what she's executing. And, you know, she's not a Sith, so it's not going to be this force-filled Sith story. But it's someone who's hurt and hurting, and how she misplaces all that mistreatment as a child, and how that led her to just be polarized to what kindness is, to what being a good person is, and being a good leader is. Like, she doesn't speak, you know, even just the kind of exchange she has with that New Republic senator, I don't know who that person was, alien senator lady, is very just cold. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not really a start or an end. It's this representative is like, hey, let's talk what's happening. And then Morgan's just like, no, I'm gonna absolutely wipe you now. And that's what happens. And I think it's, again, this point of view of just the misplacement of Morgan's purpose, and she does that herself. That's how I read that.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get what they're trying, the point this episode is trying to drive home. Just the whole idea of, like, the first episode is like the path of fear. It's her doing this stuff, doing things out of fear, making choices out of fear, how that affects you and the people around you, and how it starts her down this path. And then her kind of, I mean, in a sense, you know, admitting that she is on this path of revenge, that she's giving into her hate. and, you know, making a deal with the devil, basically deal with the Empire, a deal with the entity that, I mean, she doesn't really know it, but she kind of should know it, that is partially responsible. It is responsible for the killing of her mother and all of her Night Sisters. And then this episode is more about, okay, you know, how does that actually translate into the real world when you're faced with something? And, you know, when the rubber meets the road, she is met with the real world going like, yeah, you've done some bad things. You need to kind of pull back on this and, you know, see reason and, you know, let bygones be bygones. She's like, no. And literally, you know, burns down the whole world, I guess. Apparently that's how Corvus got to be the way it was. It wasn't some environmental thing. It wasn't because of what Ahsoka said, planting roles. She just flamethrowered the entire planet. That was a bit. I'm like, okay, that's how that happened.
Funny.
Okay, all right. That was surprising to me. I think ultimately my reservations about the episode are kind of along the lines of what you said, Dom. Like, you know, ultimately, kind of like it's kind of it doesn't have the 1-2 punch that the other two episodes do in regards to like the kind of the emotional and maybe more of the literal of just like what's going on here. In Star Wars, as we said, it's always about that. It's always like the, you know, Star Wars is very like slapping you in the face with the point, but then also like there's 1,000 other things in the background that you may or may not get because it's symbolism. That is ultimately what you get most of the time in Star Wars. Whereas this episode, you know, I think it's kind of hamstrung by the fact that the story has already been told. Like the point, like the ultimate story after what she goes through with Thrawn is what we saw in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Like that's the continuation of that story. And I think this feels more like, dare I say it, filler. It feels more like just kind of like a bump in the road as opposed to like, okay, the real story is when Ahsoka shows up and that whole story and she gets captured and they go off to meet Thrawn. Like that's the meat of the story. This episode's like, yeah, okay, it's cool. See the New Republic. I really like the design of the alien. Like I like that she's like,
that was cool.
She's like she's like barely humanoid. Like she's got these weird fingers and stuff like that. Like I love to see that kind of stuff because it would be hard to pull that off in live action, but they do it in animation very easily. So like technically like it's a beautiful episode. And obviously look at that screenshot. Come on. Like that's gorgeous. Like it's so amazing. But I do like something left to be desired with this episode. Like I said, I don't hate it. It's a good episode. Like all the episodes are good. It's just that they're varying qualities of good, in my opinion.
It reminds me, Doctor Who used to do this thing where they would have like a prequel to every episode that would be like a web short. The more we talk about it, it's like the prequel web short to the Jedi episode of The Mandalorian, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Like in another universe where The Mandalorian never happened, which is weird because why would Morgan Elsbeth be in this thing if it wasn't for The Mandalorian? Anyway, like the Jedi, it would be like that would be the third episode. Like her Ahsoka showing up and like taking her down, like that would be the third episode of Tales of the Empire. I'm glad it wasn't because Tales like the Jedi is like one of the best episodes of Star Wars TV ever, in my opinion. I'm glad we got that in live action. It's great. But it is this whole thing of Star Wars where when you're jumping back and forth, sometimes it's hard to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. You know what I think we should do? Ben, you know what I think we should do? I think, we have a new Star Wars show. We have 6 new episodes of a show. That means there's really only one thing we can do in that at this point. And, it's time once again for everybody's favorite segment. You thought it was going away last week with the Bad Batch. No, it's back for another round with Tales of the Empire. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do-do-do-do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right, Ben. Have you got some connections for us this week?
We're still doing this.
Oh yeah,
we're still doing this.
I hope you're ready for the Acolyte because that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's see, I feel like I'm wholly unprepared for the Acolyte because I am so far behind on the High Republic. And it's just going to be that thing is just going to be like, you didn't catch this reference. It's going to be like Matt is just going to be screaming at me the entire time. Like, you didn't get this reference. And it's like, Finestra Rose in this episode. It's just going to be stuff like that. It's going to be great. All right. I did find a few things, not everything. I always 9 times out of 10 after every time I watch one of these episodes and then I watch it again, I always find something else after we've already recorded this. So, apologies. Don't scream at me on Twitter when you find something that I didn't. Okay, just leave me be. Okay, so this was fresh on my mind because I still have PTSD. The explosives that Morgan's guards use on the New Republic transport. We're just talking about it. It's the same type that CX-1, who formerly known as Tech, used on the Havoc Marauder in the Bad Batch. Literally the exact same thing. So so they're those things are all over the place. So I like this thing, and I can't take credit for this. I saw some chatter about this. The fact that you have when we first see Barriss, she's in her cell, and we see her looking at the burning Jedi Temple. We can kind of figure when that takes place. We kind of know exactly when that is. The next scene is Lynn coming to her cell, and it's in the rain. And if you remember, when Darth Sidious returns to Coruscant with the broken body of Darth Vader, it's raining. And it seems to be, I like the idea that that's the same day.
That's a great connection, Ben. Yeah, that's well done. And I rarely say that, but that's very good.
Yeah, that is the only good connection I've heard.
That's the only good one. That's the only
no, that one is mind-blowing. That one was mind-blowing. Yeah,
that's great.
Man, I didn't even come up with that one. Oops.
Again, that's the George Lucas stuff, right? That's like the crying,
Oh yeah. Okay, here's another Revenge of the Sith connection for you. So I love that. You know how in Revenge of the Sith, how there's normally in Star Wars, they're just like a down wipe, an up wipe, like scene transitions. Like there's usually just like it goes across thing, and then Revenge of the Sith, for no inexplicable reason, they just get nuts. There's just these crazy. There's one wipe that is like cubes, and it like transitions with George and whatever else.
George had just installed Windows Movie Maker. He's like, this is great. This is great. You can do so much stuff.
Digital technology. I told you.
But I'm pretty sure there's at least one, if not 2 or 3 of those same
Star
transitions
wipe.
in
Star
this
wipe.
episode.
That's good.
I love that. Yeah, that's so yeah. So the Filoni or the crew taking a note out of George's handbook there. Really cool. Return of the crazy Windows Movie Maker wipes. What else? We got
I think we broke Din. He's still laughing.
He's cracking it.
He's muted himself.
He's gone.
He's got his head in his hands.
I was so like when Windows got rid of Movie Maker, I was so sad because I lost all those things. You can't do those on Clipchamp. But
it really was a terrible loss. It's the only way I knew how to edit was through Windows Movie Maker. Nicholas Cantu voices Dante, the Jedi Padawan turned things. He's actually the species of that character, I believe, showed up in Battlefront 2. I think the new Battlefront 2, and Nicholas Cantu also voiced Rowan Freemaker in the Lego Star Wars Freemaker Adventures.
Love a Freemaker,
and also a bunch of other stuff apparently. So that's pretty cool. And I also like the idea. Again, this is all over Twitter. I can't take credit for this. The healer, the fact that they refer to Barriss as the healer. There's a very iconic thing that I'm sure everyone's seen. If you haven't, just Google. I don't even know what the name of the novel is, but it's Barriss kind of cradling a clone trooper, like healing them. Like there's this very iconic book cover, which is kind of So, which is kind of we're kind of all accustomed to force healing being a thing in Star Wars now, but and thinking it's a new thing, but really it's not. It's been around for quite a long time, and Barriss was one of the OGs.
There you go. All right. Those are some good connections, Ben. We appreciate those. And this one and only Tales of the Empire edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right.
And one more thing.
God.
One more thing. One more thing.
Oh, jeez.
Look, before we sign off, I figure Hannah was owed something, so I have a surprise for you, Hannah. I figured,
I'm scared.
Why not? We really, it's something that you said was missing, so we had to do it.
Oh, there he is. Oh, my best buddy. Look at that face. Look at that face. That's the true hero of Tales of the Empire. That's the true story we're meant to get. This mole guy, sloth man, whatever we're gonna call him. Actually, he kind of looks like a Brian or something. I don't know. We could name him later, but I love him.
I think
Brian.
I think Brian's the name.
Is Brian? Yeah. I'm trying to. How can we Star Warsify the name Brian? I don't know. Brian. I don't know. But I love it. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it.
Put a hyphen in there. BRY-AN. Right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
There we go. All right. Let's go around the table one more time and give some final thoughts. And if you feel like it, a score out of 10 for Tales of the Empire. Hannah, why don't you start us off?
Yay. Tales of the Empire. As much as I kind of started off a bit strong, I think it's good for what we got. It was interesting, different types of storytelling. If we had the same stories and same characters and styles, it would be very boring. It's not something that's my favorite piece of media, but I am still happy that it came, and I'm glad it came on May 4th as well. So I'm going to give the Morgan story a 7.5 out of 10. I'm going to give the Barriss story a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, over to you. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Out of 10.
Yeah. So, I liked both these stories. I think I had quibbles, I had questions, but ultimately, I'm really glad that we continue to get these things, and the Tales franchise is continuing to expand and give us these really fascinating stories. And I think, at the very least, I have much greater appreciation for both the characters of Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth after this, especially Morgan Elsbeth, because Barriss is a mainstay. Morgan is a very, very new character to all of us. So I think it was a good idea to, obviously, you could say they're both kind of characters in the vicinity of Ahsoka, and Filoni loves Ahsoka, blah, 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 blah. You can throw that out there, but also, they are interesting characters, and they're diverse characters in the way that they have two inverse stories, and one is very well developed, one is not developed at all. And despite any quibbles that I have, I think ultimately they're both very, very strong stories, and I think I'm really looking forward to going back and rewatching these things. I too would love to watch them 6 times in a row. Okay. But until then, I'm going to give the Morgan episodes an 8 out of 10. And I'm going to give the Barriss episodes a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. I watched the last episode, or I started the last episode about 4 times today to rewatch it, but because I was so tired from my day, I kept dozing off right as it was beginning. So I've seen bits and pieces of that one about 6 times. And honestly, saying I fell asleep is I'm not hating on that episode. I actually think it might be my favorite. I was just so freaking tired. But Din, your final thoughts on Tales of the Empire?
Yeah, I'll give them 10 out of 10 just for the fact that I applaud Disney and Lucasfilm. I applaud Lucasfilm's desire to use other formats like these shorter Tales episodes and Star Wars Visions as like a testing ground for the other ways you can tell Star Wars stories. And I give them 10 out of 10 for that, just like off the bat, because I don't think I'd rather have imperfect Star Wars that takes risks to do new things than perfect Star Wars that conforms to my idea of what perfect Star Wars is. So I love that. And the other thing is, essentially, Star Wars is about is a thing that makes you think and speculate and seek. It's something that makes you seek, and to what the mysteries are in universe or even out of universe. And I find myself still thinking about the episodes, and we'll probably need to watch them again because I just clued into it's not only the Morgan Elsbeth stuff that's like the Dagobah, only what you take with you, but it's then also in these episodes where you have to think about what Barriss says to Lynn about if you go into the cave, you won't get out. That really, so I love it because I'm thinking, what does that mean? And I think what she's taking into the cave is she's trapped by her own ideas. She's trapped herself in subscribing to the Empire on a thought level. And so I think there's more to uncover in these episodes, and that's why I like them. That's as short as I could say it without breaking out into laughing hysterically about Windows Movie Maker. I have to watch Revenge of the Sith now. Is that like when he goes into the dream state and he comes out of it and it does?
Yeah, this is like the cubes, the squares on the screen. Yeah. Good old George. Yeah, I did.
Because he literally created the technology to do that. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you that like I'd rather have imperfect Star Wars than Star Wars than perfect, quote unquote, Star Wars that conforms to what we've gotten already. And in that spirit, like I'll give the Barriss stuff 9.5 and I'll give Morgan about 7.5, maybe an 8. It's like I think it's really, really good stuff. I think the Morgan stuff, that's where there's maybe it veers a little bit more into the conforming territory with like, okay, we're gonna have the meeting with Thrawn and with this and that. And while that stuff was really, really good, to me, the Barriss stuff was just on a whole other level. And maybe she's not dead. Maybe it was the right call for her to die off. I don't know. I don't know. We just spent last week, praising the Bad Batch for doing a quote unquote redemption story within Star Wars where the character who was being redeemed didn't die with Crosshair. And I really, really like that. And then this week it felt like we fell right back into an old habit with the Barriss storyline. And like I said, I wish she could have sort of lived on as that sort of sage, not really Jedi, but actually more Jedi than any other Jedi version of herself that was serving as the healer. And who knows, maybe she does. Maybe Lynn helps her back to life and all that stuff. But really strong stuff from Tales of the Empire. I look forward to more either Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of the Clones, Tales of the High Republic,
I feel like New Republic is next.
New Republic, yeah.
I did notice something on Disney Plus, and I don't know if this is common knowledge, and maybe I've just discovered it. But when you hover over Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire, and it comes up with like a banner artwork, they title it Star Wars Tales, just that titling. And I think that might be how they maybe go forward with how they call this series shorts of things. They're just maybe called Star Wars Tales, and then each grouping of episodes is like something like what we're saying, like all these different types of tales. But I don't know, I just noticed that last week and I was like, oh, that makes more sense, because we always said they should just call it like Tales of Star Wars. And which I think that makes sense to like encapsulate all the different eras and characters they all do. But Star Wars Tales, I don't know if that's like everyone knew that, and I just found that out, but there you go.
Yeah. I feel like right now, because there's just the two of them, it makes sense to keep them separate. But at a certain point, once you get into 3 or 4, you probably want to give them all a home, a space where somebody who's coming in for the first time can easily grab. Oh, I really like these shorts. Oh, there's Jedi, Empire, Jedi 2, Bounty Hunters, on and on and on. So on and so
I'm
forth.
curious, Hannah, how did they spell Tales? Because it could be another series, or it could be an entire new series about characters with tails. And I'm very curious.
Who has a tail in Star Wars? You know what? Don't answer that.
Actually, that would be. I got one. What's
Ben's
his
connection in the corner with Ben. Okay.
I'm forgetting his name. Never
Okay,
mind.
great. Okay, good job. A plus work, everybody. Before we wind things down, Din, you're on to plug the new Baby Makes 3 mix version of F1053. The album is out now. We talked a little bit about it last week when you crashed the show. Do you want to give everybody one more once over on what they can expect from this new version of F1053?
So Baby Makes 3 is not completely, but it's 90% re-recorded of F1053 that we rushed a little bit to get out in time for Celebration Anaheim in 2022. So we didn't get in the studio with a drummer and all that. So we did that. So the original co-producer, Alex Mine, who by the way, does sound for Disney, and his brother is a head Imagineer for things like Rise of the Resistance. So it's cool that there's Star Wars connections with him as a producer, but and drummer. He was in the Souls, so we have a whole history of playing together, and you could hear that on the album. He did the first F105 record, the drums and the production, co-produced. So we played Ontario Place 2 years ago. And when we played Toys at Ontario Place, the festival, it came out funky. And Alex was in a funk band for a long time touring. And so Toys is now a full-on funk version. And Songs for Our Kids is relatively the same, but with real drums and harmonies, I guess, from watching the Beatles Get Back doc about 30 times, all 12 hours through and through. And then Not Special, because it might be the most emotionally important song to me in terms of being about a friend. We just got that right. I think it really connects emotionally. So yeah, Baby Makes 3 mix. It's out now, and I think all 3 songs are a youth theme, and that's my niece on the cover, Margot.
Yeah, the songs are out. It's terrific. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. Once you're done listening to this, go listen to F1053, Baby Makes 3 mix, and groove a little.
And share on Spotify. I've been anti-Spotify forever, but apparently I need the label wants. They'd like me to play this game because it does have benefits in terms of other things. Not getting paid. No one gets paid on Spotify, even after a million plays. Yeah, and then so please keep in touch by following any social network at F105 Music, because I just found out on this thing right before we started that I booked another show in LA, so I'll be in LA doing 2 or 3 shows last week of July while you're there as well, Dom, for SDCC.
Yep.
And then probably I'll move on to San Francisco and Las Vegas this time after that.
Ooh,
so Sunday, July 28th, I'll busk in front of Scum and Villainy Monday, July 29th, because there's a Star Wars event going on in there. They don't want music, but the door guy and the assistant liked when I bust in front last time, so I'll just go greet people in line. That's okay with the organizers of the event. And then on the Tuesday at the Barrel in Sherman Oaks.
Nice.
Okay, that's it. Sorry, that one.
There you go. Love it. So yeah, check it out. Check out F1053. Baby Makes 3 mix. All right. I know there was a lot of other Star Wars things that happened this past weekend with May the 4th. There's a new trailer for The Acolyte. They announced a new Lego Star Wars series. The Phantom Menace was in theaters.
2D, boo.
Only in 2 dimensions, true. And of course, we also have a bunch of questions for Ask the SWU. We're going to save all of that for next week or potentially the week after, depending on how things go in the next 7 days. But we do appreciate all the questions that have come in. So again, shout out Matthew, Gilser, Vlad, Tali, Kajira, Blackthorn, Ingenious, Jay Augustine, Lucky Lego, we'll get to the questions next week, as well as all that news with the Acolyte and Lego and everything else. But for now, I think that's where we will begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you everybody so much for listening. Like I said, we'll be back in 7 days time to discuss all those exciting things from the May 4th weekend that weren't Tales of the Empire. And of course, we'll continue discussing Tales of the Empire as things go. Dan, you look like you have something to say.
Maybe Ben was onto something.
Oh?
It's like a Lucasian homage. So you could have the tails separated into the good side and bad side. So you can have the red tails and the blue tails. And then you're making an homage to George Lucas's Red Tails movie.
There you go.
Also, Terra Sinube. Terra Sinube has a tail.
Oh, of course. That's what it is.
How could we forget?
Also, Twi'leks have head tails.
It's true. There you go.
True.
Ben's Connection Corner.
I've connected the dots.
Thank you. Like I said, thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back in 7 days time for Acolyte discussion, Lego discussion, and so much more. Ben, thank you as always for being on this week.
Oh, it's a pleasure as always. And I think if for some reason there is another trailer released or something like that next week, and we do not answer everyone's questions, I think we may have a riot on our hands putting them off for so long. But I promise, okay, we're gonna get to them. I promise. They're all great questions. We've read them all, and yeah, it's just we've had so much going on, guys. I'm hoping it's amazing we have gotten here in this amazing era of Star Wars. I'm just hoping we're like, can we just have no news this week? Just no news? Can we just catch up a little bit? We have no big Star Wars trailer, no big Star Wars series releasing, nothing like that. Just a normal week.
Too much excitement, man.
Yeah, I know. But we used to make fun of ourselves of just like, old podcasts from this show, 10 plus years ago, were like, and they announced the guests for Star Wars Celebration Europe. And that's all for this week, guys. Mark Hamill's going to be there. And yeah. So, we've come a long way. But yes, very thankful for what we've got things. And Tales of the Empire was amazing. We got an Acolyte trailer to talk about. And in a few weeks, we're going to be talking about that show. What are you talking about? Like, come on. It's going to be a wild next few weeks, guys. It's going to be great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ben. Make sure you're following Ben at Ben Hart with no E on the social medias. Hannah, thank you as always for being on. We're glad to have you back because we missed you last week when you were off planning your events and for all the exciting stuff you were doing out there in Sydney. But good to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, what a good time. Love hanging out. Love roasting Ben as always. So another happy landing.
I love it too.
Another happy landing. Yeah, and make sure you're following Hannah at the Raeside, and make sure you subscribe to the Raeside, and go watch the interview with Gavin. It's really good.
Yeah,
go check it out.
Thank you.
Check it out.
He gives me career advice and like life advice. Like,
nice.
There's so much I had to cut out because he just started talking about like what he's having for dinner and like what he's doing tomorrow. He was such a nice guy. His son came in the room in the call, and he's like, "Oh, Hannah, this is my son."
He was great. I watched the whole thing,
yeah.
Hannah.
Did you?
I already utilized some of his advice. Yeah.
There you go. Boom. You'll get life advice from it.
Amazing. So check it out. Follow the Raeside at the Raeside on everything. Dan, thank you for guesting with us. I guess 2 weeks in a row now. It's kind of, sort of, in a weird sort of way.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll crash your show anytime.
And make sure you're following at F105 Music on all the social medias. And check out F1053 Baby Mix 3 Mix. Available now. Follow me at Dominic J25. I've mainly been posting about hockey lately and crying over one team and being excited over another team. So, follow that for good times. And make sure you're following at the SWU on all the social medias, but especially on Threads. Join the Discord, link in the description. Stop by for movie nights, game nights, all sorts of other stuff. Keep the discussion going between shows. subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That really does help us out. It helps us get to reach more people. And make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or wherever you watch and or listen to these shows. And if you feel like it, become a channel member. That's fun too. And check out all the amazing shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, like the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, the Tractor Beam, and so much more. That is going to do it for this week. We will see you all in 7 days' time to talk about all the news we missed. But for Ben, for Hannah, for Din, for Chris, and for all the other wonderful people at the Star Wars Underworld Network, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you.
Oh, I need a vape.